Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Jimmy Korderas. His name is Justin LaBar. And this is the Wrestling Inc. WWE Raw After Show. And if we got a good one for you, we've got black cowboy hats. We've got The Miz putting on a show. And we've got proof that the bad guys understand that teamwork makes the dream work. But before we get into all of that, Justin LaBar, how you been, my old pal?
I am doing well. Yeah, I mean, we're on the road to Backlash, not WrestleMania Backlash, but Backlash, and I'm actually looking forward to some stories on Backlash. It doesn't feel like a throwaway show. I'm looking forward to hearing the Puerto Rican crowd and all the tie-ins that we're gonna have there. So all things wrestling considered, I'm doing good.
And Jimmy, how about yourself? We're getting a few dings in there. Is that me or is that coming through someone else's?
That was mine, and I'm apologizing. I'm putting it on mute right now because I sometimes tend to forget that.
Tell Chimmel you got a job to do.
He's always breaking my chops. What can I tell you? Doesn't matter. Even when he's not here.
How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing well, my friend. And again, dealing with this the Jekyll and Hyde weather up here, but other than that, it's awesome. Like sunny is just one day it's nice and warm. You got the windows open, everything, and then the next day you got the heat back on.
Well, speaking of the heat, Stephen Camp asking if I'm in a smoke box. No, my camera doesn't work, and I'm stuck with my broken face. It says Facebook camera on the drop-down menu here, but basically the built-in one in my laptop. This is why I tried to use another camera. This one doesn't work. I don't know why the one I'm using isn't working now. I've got set up. I was set up, Canon. This one's on you, I say.
Farmer hanging out Cheech and Chong over there.
That's why I would be doing a lot of laughing later.
Okay. But we have to correct Chris over there. It's Triple J, not Double J.
Yes, it's Triple J. Matt Riddle is back, so I had to smoke it up a little bit. No,
wow, kayfabe, brother.
Yes, yeah. Everyone's complaining. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help it.
We can't see the quality of your fine hair.
I know
that's the thing.
Behind the haze,
I blow dried for nothing. I tell you, what's the point? What if I'm not doing it for the camera? What am I even doing it for? Well, let's talk about Bryce Jackson Riddle's house. Yes. Well, let's talk about some news first and foremost. Some big news, bigger than my cloudy camera here, is WWE is reportedly in renewed talks with ESPN following the Endeavor deal. According to PW Insider Elite, WWE is in talks with ESPN to collaborate on new projects moving forward. The biggest caveat being that for the time being, these talks do not involve a weekly TV series. Another interesting piece of information from the report is that there's news that another promotion was in talks with ESPN, despite AEW's recent deal with ESPN to air their programming in Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. It is confirmed that AEW is not the promotion in question. Which promotion was in talks with ESPN is unknown, but it can be assumed with WWE stepping back in that those talks are in jeopardy. Justin, a couple of interesting points here to take away. I want your thoughts on. One, who doesn't want it to be a weekly show? Is this WWE saving that for another buyer, or is that ESPN saying, look, man, we just want your documentaries? Also, who is this other party that could be talking to ESPN?
I don't know who the other party would be. I mean, I guess you could never rule out AEW potentially, but I mean, they would. I don't know. That one's a peculiar one. But to the, I think we have to remember, WWE could also, they still are in kind of, they're going into bidding, they're going into negotiations. So you got to play your hand kind of close to the vest. So you could even say, oh, ESPN, we want to do more specials, more documentaries, but I don't know if we want a weekly show, because if you come out and say that, if you come out and say you want a weekly show at the ESPN, well, gives ESPN some leverage in what they offer. It also then could potentially silence or make others hesitate, others meaning Fox or NBC with USA or anybody else who'd want to get into the WWE business. So you kind of want to remain non-committal. You don't want to pick your date to the prom just yet, so to speak. And so I think that's kind of what's going on. I do think, and when we learned that Endeavor and the UFC and all this merging was going to happen, WWE's long chased the ESPN credibility, and they've gotten more and more of it the last few years. You know, they have had ESPN do pre-shows, and they've had specials air and documentaries. And so I think in a perfect world, WWE would like to see themselves get their programming more on ESPN, whether that means that their pay-per-views eventually move to ESPN Plus, or I don't know, but ESPN still has a mainstream bearer of credibility, and WWE loves to get that, loves to be, again, they love to be in the same conversations as Super Bowl, as World Series. It's why they send out a world title customized to every major sports team that wins their championship. So I think they're never going to say it right now in negotiation, but I think more of them on ESPN is probably inevitable, and this merger is only going to help their credibility to ESPN.
Yeah, Jimmy, you've obviously been a part of the WWE for a very long time, and you've been backstage and probably heard a lot of conversations that us normal folks only dream about. But is there something to WWE wanting that credibility of an ESPN as opposed to Spike TV, just throwing out a random name that has had wrestling on it before?
No, absolutely. Because like you said, there is that, perception is reality thing, especially with ESPN. ESPN is well known amongst the sports community as the, sports channel to be on, and sports entertainment being on that channel. It may cause some people to go, "Oh, I can't believe they're putting that wrestling stuff on there." But at the same time, like Justin said, it gives it an aura of credibility when it ends up on ESPN. Because like right now, for example, they're not looking for a weekly show, but all the stuff that's on, I don't know what the deal is with A&E, I'm sorry, with A&E and how long that is for. But stuff like that, like the documentary series, the Rival series, and all that sort of stuff would fit in nicely on ESPN, because you don't want to lose, in my opinion, somebody like a Fox, a national, a national broadcaster like that, because, they're available over the air. You don't need cable. You don't need to pay for extra to get to watch at least SmackDown. As far as Raw is concerned, USA Cable Network has been their mainstay for a long time. It all depends on what the best deal is for them, and also gives them the best presentation and the best perception in the eyes of the fans. And ESPN, to your question earlier, yes, they have been chasing that credibility, and I can only imagine that if they can get the deal they are hoping for with them, that they would absolutely love to be on there.
Justin, I guess last part of this, I want to get your take on. We talk about how sometimes there's too much pro wrestling on TV, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, Rampage, etc. Is WWE possibly getting to the place where there's too many documentaries on TV? Just to play devil's advocate here, they do have the Rivals and everything else they've been doing. Do you think they might hit that well one too many times?
Well, you can be that stuff's kind of good to be out there, and you're being spread around. They've had ESPN, 60 for whatever 60 or 60 for 60, whatever on ESPN. They've had the current thing going on, the documentaries on A&E. I think those are okay. I think the risk they run is you kind of start to run out of stories. You even notice with some of these Sunday night biographies, I think like Charlotte's was like an hour, and Jerry Lawler's was like an hour. You start to get into people, not to disrespect, especially the Kings, not to disrespect anybody's career, but you start to get into where it's like, okay, how much do we have here to fill 2 hours? Or even, some of the other talent they've done, it's like, all right, we've seen several documentaries of them. I mean, how much new are we going to provide? So I think you might run the risk there, but I think that that's me being able to say that because I'm a diehard fan who watches all of them. I think, again, you're trying to aim to, my uncle would text me on some of these Sunday night ones because he hasn't watched wrestling in 30 years or 35 years, but seeing some of these documentaries, he's like, oh, that was interesting. I remember when that person wrestled. I remember, so I remember when the Iron Sheik was wrestling. So I think that's what you're trying to grab. I think you're trying to grab that fan, those people, and then maybe if you can bring them back in, great. But it's different versus what you're asking with AEW, because AEW is trying to put out original content every single week, and that's where you start to strain yourself creative. But this is stuff that's prepackaged, huge production teams working on a little bit different quality control.
Yeah, I guess if we start to see them doing a deep insight into Fit Finlay and the WCW Hardcore Championship rivalries he had, then maybe they've gone a little too far down that well. But I'd love that. I'd probably be the only one that's into it, but I would love that. But I feel like Yeah, I think we'll probably be able to tell when they've run out of good stories. I guess the beauty is they're always making new ones. So by the time they're done with these ones, they'll be talking about Roman Reigns or whoever.
And don't shortchange the Hardcore Championship, especially the 24/7 one. As someone who counted a very quiet pinfall inside the APA office one time, I had a lot of fun doing it.
Hey, I was very specific in saying the WCW Hardcore title, and I was referring to that what was it, the Junkyard match at a Bash at the Beach many decades ago, dating myself. But
nothing tops a monster truck battle on the roof, and then one of the participants being falling off the building, only to resurrect themselves and come back 30 minutes later
and wrestle. Yes. Oh man. Well, we got some more stuff going on. Speaking of stuff that could be on Rivalries someday, AEW is reportedly planning a program between CM Punk and Chris Jericho. Wrestling Observer Live said that a sit-down was set to take place involving Punk, Jericho, Tony Khan, FTR, and others. There's been no word yet on if the Elite would participate, as they've reportedly been reluctant on working together with Punk in the future. However, if everyone is able to get on a similar page to make things work, one of Punk's first angles upon coming back would then be with Jericho in some capacity. FTR, who has been pushing to do a program with Punk specifically for All In, and other members of the Jericho Appreciation Society could get involved as things expand. But at its baseline, it's lining up as Punk versus Jericho. I've said a million times with this whole CM Punk thing, I don't know nothing. I just take whatever I see at face value. Jimmy Korderas, this is a whole can of bees. I don't know what the phrase is here. I'm just going to let you open it up and say your piece.
Yeah, I wish I could open up this can of peas, but I'm like you. I don't know the truth, because you see all this stuff on social media going back and forth, the deleted tweets and stuff that was put out there, and Jericho making comments about, he doesn't want Punk back in and acting. He's pretty much a locker room leader there and stuff like that. So that's all out there. But at the same time, this history has a business of guys not liking each other. You don't have to like each other to do business together. And that's the main thing. If there's potential money to be made here, especially with a show that they're coming up with at Wembley Stadium, which is a big venue that they need to get a big audience to give that perception that, hey, these guys are for real. And I hope they do. What better match? The only thing I'm afraid of, that this match here, the Jericho versus CM Punk, may attract back some of those fans, but is it a big enough match to attract a huge audience? And they can, if they take their time and tell this story right, because right now they got people believing that these guys don't want anything to do with each other, and maybe they don't. But again, like I said, someone like a Chris Jericho could see the value in this from a business standpoint and can do business. And I've seen guys who didn't like each other work together many times.
Yeah, Justin, I see you nodding your head there. It sounds like you agree.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a reality, and it's proven in pro wrestling history. Sometimes stuff that stems from real life, does the best. It just carries over, and so look, the audience is very much aware. The AEW audience is very much aware of this Jericho Punk stuff, so it would be an easier sell. But you do have to take your time. To Jimmy's point, yeah, okay, so. Is it a match that's going to be a big contributing factor to a stadiums? It's not like this is first time ever. I mean, these guys had a story together in WWE, so it's not. So you're not selling anybody on the first time ever novelty. You're going to have to again tell a good story and sell them on this being truly the locker room stuff boiling out to the ring. So it could do something. The biggest thing, I guess, with this is that again, when you have two guys who legitimately, again, yes, they can do business together, if not still while not liking each other, like Jimmy said. But just the thing you have to be careful is you have to really, Tony Khan would have to really keep it on the planned rails. It's okay if you go ahead and make the fans go ahead and make all of us scratch our heads and go, "Ooh, were they supposed to say that?" Make us question that, but make sure that the people involved are on the same page of how far we're going, and nobody goes rogue, nobody takes their extra shot, because the moment you start doing that, it's going to start to go off the rails. And once again, you have trust issues, or you run a risk of a backstage blow up or something. So that's the biggest thing. It's just going to have to be Tony Khan. It might be the most ultimate test in his young promoting career to keep a hold of his talent and make sure that they stick to whatever script there actually is.
Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be the real key there. And I think, Justin, you nailed it with this being a real test of Tony Khan's leadership. Again, I don't know what really is going on. They may have all high-fived and laughed and had a good old time right after the all-out press conference, for all I know. But I've always said I'm a big believer in locker room chemistry being one of the most important things in all sports. And so I know that not everyone likes each other, and I think if they don't like each other and can work together and keep that harmony, that's cool. I do worry, though, if this upsets the locker room, you see how entire shows can start cascading off a cliff once the locker room's not into it anymore. And so I worry about that. Again, I'm not saying that anyone is good or bad or anything. Again, I don't know. I'm just saying that would be my concern. But I think CM Punk clearly sells tickets. He clearly gets people interested. We're still talking about him. I mean, after all that's happened, we're still talking about him. So clearly he's someone you want probably on the marquee if you can get him. But speaking of marquees, there's a couple people that I want to put on our marquee, and it's the people in the chat here, whether it be Shelbowski, whether it be Killer, a Demon 669, whether it be Maya Lee or Mike Martin or Jiff King, Dylan Matthews, Ethan Cruz, Stephen Camp, Huffman Elite Training. We got in there. I didn't know if to say that like I probably should have said LA Knight, not like I was about to do Usher and Lil Jon and then tried to adjust. Anyways, it's my screen's cloudy. What do you expect? But we got John Millard and also Adam Staples and everyone else. Tommy up. Thank you guys so much for being here. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Why don't you hit us with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts? Why don't you? That'd be very appreciated. We got a bunch of super chats in here. Sheed, I see yours. I'll definitely get to that once we chat about Cody Rhodes. And then Maya Lee, I'll talk about that once we get to the Trish segment. Yours as well as Shabowski. We got some I'm going to talk to you in a little bit, but Shabowski has one that's might as well bring up now while we're here with the super chat. Shabowski says 50,000 people pre-registered for Wembley. I don't know where that number's coming from, but if that's the case, bing, bang, boom, off to the races.
If that's the case, that's a huge success. Not even having a match announced.
Exactly. And that's, I was thinking that would be great if that's the number they got overall.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know where this number came from, but if it is any accuracy to it, awesome.
Yeah. So good on them. Shabowski, let us know where you saw that number, by the way. I see you have another one in there, Shabowski. There's a place I want to talk about that as far as the crowds. And I'll get to that later. So I do see it, and we will get to it in a second. But for now, we're going to chat about the opening segment, which got my heart of pitter-patter seeing these two groups going at it with each other. We got the Bloodline coming out, and things start normal enough. Then the Judgment Day comes out, and they say they have a short-term partnership with each other. And the action starts as Solo Sikoa will help Judgment Day deal with their problem, Rey Mysterio. We get a quick matchup where, maybe not so quick, but basically Solo dominated this one until Rey gets the upper hand, hits a 619. Solo kicks out of it, though. The fight continues. The Usos look to get involved, and the LWO stops them. Solo avoids another 619, hits the Samoan Spike, and gets a fairly clean win over the Legend before the Bloodline beats down the LWO. Justin, my takeaway from this, I want you talk about whatever you want here, but my takeaway from this was this really put Solo on a pedestal, whether it be the promo beforehand, the match that happened afterwards. Solo's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's been protected. The only loss he's had is right before WrestleMania, Cody beating him. Rey's been doing the job for some people the last few weeks, but that's fine because Rey Mysterio is Rey Mysterio, so it gives you credibility, but it doesn't hurt his Hall of Fame career. Very good match. Yeah, I like the two groups, the two biggest heel groups in the company. Kind of having this alliance to help deal with each other's dirty laundry, but clearly showing that they already have trust issues. That's exactly what it should be. They shouldn't be buddying. And yeah, to the point of also highlighting Solo, but also just highlighting this group. Such a wonderful. If you didn't see Raw, if you're looking for moments, go watch this promo. It's the opening segment, like Jack said, and they're standing across from each other like they're at the front lines of battle, Judgment Day and Bloodline, and Solo and Rhea just burning a hole through each other's heads, staring at each other, and Paul Heyman trying to avoid any problems, asking Solo to move, and then Rhea just slightly moving with him was just such a great touch. And to what I think you're saying, Jack, it just made Solo's the one guy out there who he and Rhea, and it elevates Rhea that she's she's picking the enforcer as everybody's a watchdog, everybody's gonna checks and balance. That's who she's gonna watch. It was great stuff. I thought this was a really well done open. I don't like it when we have a million factions. I don't think everybody needs to be in gang warfare, but I think right now, if you look overall at the intersection of LWO, Judgment Day, Bloodline, I do like that. I think it's enough to make there be chaos and alliance, but not too much to where it's confusing and I need a scorecard to keep track of who's with who. I thought this was a really well done start for the pace and the theme of what tonight's episode will be.
I think I agree with you that there's not I don't think everyone needs to be in a stable. I don't know when things get too stably, but what I love about what WWE has done with their stables right now is every stable is so different, and there's clearly a theme and there's a vibe. And if I picked a random wrestler and said which stable should they join, I think we would all pick. If I said Claudio Castagnoli is coming back to WWE, he's joining a stable, which one do you think he's joining? We'd all say Imperium. He's an Imperium guy. If you said what like Darby Allin is joining WWE and joining a stable, but yeah, he seems like a Judgment Day guy. Like you could just tell certain people fit in with certain groups, and I think that is really the power of the groups that WWE has right now. And Jimmy, I want to get your thoughts on this opening segment. I think the thing that really impressed me with this opening segment is you had two groups that were bad guys that hate everybody, that want to tear everyone apart, but they all stayed true to their character while still making me believe they would work together, but without being like, we're bad guys, so we're chums. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And that's the beauty of it, because it was almost like a little bit of a swerve, because when they came out, you thought there was going to be a confrontation between these two. And of course, Paul Heyman kind of set the tone with his saying it's a short-term agreement. And they emphasized that short-term many, many times. And the little touches, you could tell the tension was there. And the one thing that Paul Heyman said where, yes, the Usos weren't informed of it. They did tell Solo because they didn't want Solo to go off the rails. That was the story being told, at least anyways, to calm the Usos down. We told Solo about it so he didn't go off the rails, because you know how he can get, sort of thing. And the little touch like Justin mentioned where he switched Solo's spot and Rhea followed him and it just made her look badass as well. But this is a different spin on the can they coexist without it being corny. It worked in this instance.
I think one of the things that makes it work is that we were saying, can they coexist? They weren't saying, can they coexist? If that makes sense.
And just one other thing too, and this isn't the first time that you could say this, but it just really hit me tonight. It is nice that WWE has finally found the right story to surround the champion and the right story to make, Roman Reigns by some accounts he's now moved to a part-time schedule, at least of appearing on television, and especially with matches, but that's okay. He is a special attraction. It's best for business. It makes, it's the right thing to do. But rather than just having, he's gone and just like the fact that he's the tribal chief up, who is at the head of the table, who's calling the shots. We don't even see him, but he's calling the shots, and Paul Heyman is relaying it to the rest of the world. It makes Roman Reigns' aura grow each week as his streak continues with the title reign days, but yet you're giving him whatever you've contractually now agreed to of time off. It makes it work. It's finally, we've seen in the past, whether it be Brock or whomever on that upper level that gets that part-time deal. You're like, they're here, but now I know they're going to go away next week. This works, that Roman doesn't have to be there every week, but yet he still has as much impact on the storylines. So again, just a great job to WWE for the way that they've kind of insulated Roman to where he doesn't have to be there, but he is still there.
It's so funny you say it, because I was just thinking earlier this week is that I actually can't wait for the days when Brock is part-time, Undertaker's part-time, they're gone forever, and then someone gets mouthy in the ring and their music hits, and you're like, whoa, I forgot about him. He's coming out. This is cool. I can't wait for that moment with Roman Reigns, where we forget that Roman Reigns is lurking out there, and someone, some Austin Theory, whoever's like, I'm the best there's ever been, and then the music hits, you're like, oh my goodness, Roman Reigns is back. I can't wait for that. It's gonna come soon, but I can't wait for it. We got a couple of super chats I definitely want to get through here. Asks JJJ Triple J, do you guys think we need Solo to speak more?
Not yet.
Nope.
No. Give it time. Let him be the strong, silent type. Right now, Paul Heyman could do all the talking. What was it? Was it last week where he said just a couple of words and everybody went, oh. Because it was done in a soft but menacing way, if that makes any sense. Soft and menacing.
Yes.
But you know what I'm trying to say. It just take your time. He doesn't need to talk yet.
Yeah. Less is more.
Yes, very Goldberg in that regard. And Shelbowski coming back with the news. Thank you so much. Says they announced it today in the UK. 50,000 isn't sales; it's just registering to purchase tickets. But if you have 50,000 people pre-registering, that's very impressive. Agreed. And then it goes on to say, PW Insider reported that today and in the UK.
Okay. All right. So it's a nice sign. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a good sign. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean they're going to necessarily sell 50,000 tickets, but it's a good sign that 50,000 people are looking.
Interested. Yes.
So we'll see. Alpha Academy. Chad is pitching that Alpha Academy as a package deal while Maxine is trying to highlight Otis. Jimmy, feet to the fire. You've got the pin. You're deciding it. Is Otis going to join Maximum Male Models and leave Chad behind forever? Or will Otis stick with his Alpha Academy buddy? Which do you want to happen?
I almost want to see him leave his buddy and go join the Maximum Male Models, because I see Chad Gable as a potential star as well. He's the total. He's like this generation's Kurt Angle without the push. He's that talented. He's that good on the mic. He ticks all the boxes. I hate to keep saying that about certain talents, but he does. So in a way, I'd kind of like to see him break apart from him, and almost want to see them in a rivalry.
Yeah.
Against one another.
Yeah, it could be a great way to turn Chad eventually that serious good guy we've been looking forward to. Maybe if he has to, we talk about the hard times thing, goes through the hard time of losing his friends, then has to go through Maximum Male Models, has to go through his old pal, and then is ready for that U.S. title or whatever it is after all that. But right. Justin, same question.
I think they're both likable, Otis and Chad Gable. I think that, and I wouldn't move away from that. I wouldn't turn one of them. I think with the draft upcoming, that's just the perfect situation just to naturally pull them apart. I would move if the Maximum Male Models if that remains a Raw thing. I would keep Otis on Raw, pursue that comedy, pursue that potential. I would move Chad over to SmackDown. And he doesn't have to be serious in the sense of Lance Storm. If I could be serious for a minute, he can be as I've said before. I look at him as a Kurt Angle, Owen Hart hybrid. He can be comedic and kind of fun loving and a little goofy, but he could still be serious and respected in the ring. I would move him over to SmackDown. I think he'd be somebody, if you position him right there as a babyface automatically. I let him be a challenger to Gunther. I think right there, just thrusting him right in the IC picture against Gunther. I'm not saying he should beat Gunther or be the one to end the title reign, but I think that would be a huge elevation to his newly found singles career.
And again, he's the kind of guy too that I think whenever you have the young plucky or the next plucky underdog that is supposed to be the guy we cheer for, put him into the meat grinder like someone like a Gunther that's going to just, sorry, Chad, beat the hell out of him for a little bit so he grows to sympathize with him and see him fight through it. That's exactly what I think you want to get him on that trajectory. We move on and we get to Bianca Belair versus Dakota Kai. Not a surprising outcome, but Dakota did her thing. The story was really an unhappy Bayley watching on from ringside. Justin, we've had issues with Damage Control in the past, but has the dysfunction made this group more interesting to you?
No. I just they just need to accept their losses on this one. Cut like what's the phrase? Just cut your losses. I don't. The three of them, it's just kind of gone too far gone. I can see them trying to spice it up with some drama, but I think we need to hit a reset button on this one. Again, draft. Maybe the draft could be a blessing to get to separate the ladies and officially call it quits without saying, okay, we failed, and just pulling it off TV, break them up so you can just use that as the excuse. Oh, they're broken up. We don't have Damage Control anymore. It's just not working.
Jimmy, do you agree? And if this is leading to the end of Damage Control, which it kind of feels like it is, who do you think Bianca's next real challenger is going to be?
That's an interesting question. I do agree that they just haven't resonated. There's something that's not clicking with this group, and it's not getting fans invested in them. And of course, the standout in the group is Bayley, because she's the one that people are gravitating to the most. And Sky and Kai, I feel kind of sorry for. Being kind of like not on the same level, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. But I'm sorry. Back to your question was,
who's Bianca's next challenger?
See, that's going to be the interesting one. Who is there? Who has built up that to that point where you could say, who is the next challenger? The only thing I could think of is, can you do right now? I don't think the roster has been built up enough on both sides, on Raw and SmackDown, where you can have, like they do in the men's division, one champion. I think that with the women's championships, they need to be divided, but I don't see anyone stepping up right now to be that contender. I mean, the only one with name value maybe is someone like a Trish after she's done her deal with
Becky.
But, with Becky, and, have, what I mean? Have her elevate Bianca even more. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know where you go with that.
I think for Bianca, if they gave it some time to build her up, I think Piper Niven could be a challenge. She can certainly hang in the ring. You got to build her up a little bit and get people. We got to get some heat on her. Or I don't follow NXT. I don't follow NXT as close because I don't need to every week with not doing a podcast for it. But I know there are a lot of females in NXT who seem to be doing well. Momentum seems to be in their favor. So maybe Shawn Michaels and Triple H get together and they can identify who would be the right one to bring up to be a foil to Bianca if there is one right now for the draft. But I think the final thing with the Damage Control, and Jimmy kind of said how the other two really aren't up. And I think that's what it feels like. It's like if you're going to do the trio of Damage Control doesn't have much. They haven't won a lot. They haven't done much of anything in the 9 months they've been together. So that's you're already starting behind things there. And then when you try to have the dissension problem, when you start to have the drama within, well, that all has to be told via the mic. That all has to be told via body language and communication. And Bayley's really good as heel or face. And Sky and Kai aren't as good communicators. They just aren't to this audience. They just don't. It doesn't come off. So I think that's really where the problem comes. Is like you're trying to tell me the story of this problem, but Bayley just overshadows them, and so it really just doesn't give Sky or Kai, who again don't have much credibility anyways on the wins and loss column. It makes it even hard. It's a deeper hole for them to dig out of. And I think that's why I said just cut your losses with it.
Yeah. I have something I want to talk about with all this, but it has to do with what we saw later in the night, so I'll save it for a little bit later. For now, we got a couple of backstage segments. I'm just going to lump them together here. We first have the Judgment Day, and they're hanging out when Paul Heyman comes by, and even though they feel like Solo was they say they'll handle business with KO, Sammy, and Riddle. Heyman implies that they'll have to answer to the tribal chief if they fail. Jimmy, I'll start with you. One, I love when they do these like stories that play out through the show, these mini 1-episode stories. But also I like that they added a little bit of stakes here. Like, hey, if you guys fail, we did our job. You better do yours.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, plants more seeds and gives them more options to go in different directions. And you can keep us guessing as well. And that's the whole thing, because one of the things that people complain about, that I hear at least anyways, or read, is that, oh, that was too predictable. I saw this coming. Now you're kind of going, oh, where's this going to go? What is the next step with this thing? And I like that they are teasing little snippets of maybe there's going to be some dissension between the Bloodline and Judgment Day. And there's still the issues with KO, Sammy, and Matt Riddle. So, options are there. And who knows, maybe we get all of the above.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing about gangs. At some point, they're going to want the same territory. They're going to want that same street corner. And it's looking like Judgment Day and the Bloodline are starting to get pretty close to the same street corner. Justin, I want your thoughts on all this, but also I want to add in the segment they did where Matt Riddle had some ideas for their match, and he says he's going to do the bro toe, but then says, no, man, I'm not being goofy. I'm serious. I love that they reminded us that Matt Riddle's a killer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I love when there's a thread and there's a theme to the episode and there's a story carrying through. Yeah, I think that was a really important backstage segment. Almost so important that I wonder, would it have been worthwhile to do out in front of the crowd just to elevate its importance? Just because, backstage kind of sometimes gets a secondary, it's backstage, but if it's not in front of the crowd, it's pay attention. Because you're right. Riddle, through all the success that Riddle, the RK Bro had, and all the goofy comedy stuff or whatever, and he's high and 420, it does get lost that this is a guy who does have one of the most legitimate backgrounds. He's a babyface who's a goofy babyface, but when he does get in the ring, he sells really well. He has great facial expressions for a babyface to sell, but it does get a little lost at times, and especially now that he's just come back from injury. That he's a tough dude. He's a former UFC competitor who I think had a pretty damn good record, if I remember correctly. And so I think that was an important thing to do tonight, was to remind people, like, this guy could legit shoot on most of the roster if he wanted to. But we don't think of him like Brock Lesnar. We don't think of him. Hell, we don't even think of him like Chad Gable, who's an Olympian. He's not putting that same thought because he's goofy smoking weed guy, Matt Riddle, who's kicking his flip-flops off and all that. He's riding a scooter. But I think that they do need to do that, especially if they want to actually get the best return on investment of Riddle. If they still are going to try to ride him as a potential top babyface, they are going to have to remind people or educate people on how lethal he could be. And who knows, maybe with a merger with UFC, that opens up a whole tape library of being able to, whenever you want to kind of not hit a reset, but not even a repackage, but when you want to move into the next phase of, okay, Riddle's one of the next baby phases projects that we're going to push to be a top potential title contender. Even we need to tell more story and background about him. Well, now if you have the entire UFC library at your disposal, that could do wonders. Like
a little reminder sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yep. 100%. So speaking about talking in front of the crowd live, Cody Rhodes shows up and he calls out the Beast, but he gets someone even more dangerous, Scrap Daddy. Adam Pearce says Cody is not medically cleared, so Cody grabs a chair and just takes out poor security until the Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, comes out. Adam Pearce makes the match official in Puerto Rico. As long as Cody doesn't do anything tonight, Cody takes out security and calls Brock a coward. Later, he says he's satisfied that he gets to face Brock in Puerto Rico, but he's confused about the whole darn mess. Justin, this gives us an official announcement of the match and also makes things a little more personal, I guess, as opposed to just a random attack.
Yeah, I mean, good choice on keeping the two apart, not letting Cody get any physical vengeance on Brock yet. That's at this point, that's a big selling point to the match itself. So I'm fine with that. I don't love the explanation of, oh, you're not medically cleared. Okay, the guy's not medically cleared, but yet you're gonna let 30 security guards come out and put their hands on him. I don't love that, but I understand. But I like the ends to the mean, which is again to keep Cody apart from Brock and to keep the match, to save the match for the pay-per-view, save it for the money. I do like this, and on the sense of, if we look back now in hindsight, Cody's road to Mania, it was kind of, I'm finishing the story. He was happy to be here. Even the most personal of promos with Heyman or Roman, there was still a certain kind of slight jovial tone. This is at least it allowed him to try to like shift into a new gear of intensity. And Brock Lesnar's going to bring that out of you. You better have it if you're going to go one-on-one with Brock. So that I will say, I do kind of think that's an important thing in this whole, if we're riding Cody as our next babyface and we're trying to make sure the crowd is truly rallied behind him, he's got to show some fire. And I think this is making him show fire. And yeah, I know Brock beat the streak. I was there the night that he conquered it. I did not know that meant he got to conquer the hat and coat, but I'm sure if old Undertaker's got a problem with it, he'll phone Big Brock and let him know.
I think if anyone has a problem with Brock Lesnar wearing anything, they're just going to learn to deal with it, because I think Brock Lesnar is going to wear it regardless. But Jimmy Sheed Black has a super chat, and they've been incredibly patient because it came in right at the beginning of the show, but we've been waiting until now to get to it. I'm going to pose the question to you. Sheed Black asks, was Cody Rhodes doing heel actions tonight?
I wouldn't call him heel actions. What it is he was a super passionate, fired up babyface who wasn't taking any crap from anybody and wanted to get at Brock Lesnar by any means necessary. And when we see babyfaces being wronged, then they go above and beyond. And that's what happened. And that's what we got from Cody tonight. And like you guys said, fire, passion. The crowd was into it. They were loving the fact that they were getting this out of Cody, because before tonight, let's be honest, when you see the matchup, Cody versus Brock, how many people were going, wow, can Cody handle a guy like that? That's Brock Lesnar after all. And then all of a sudden, he takes up, yes, it's all security and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, he did show that fire. He did show that passion, and he showed that he wants to fight Brock Lesnar by any means necessary. And I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was very heelish. I just thought it was very passionate.
What I loved about that is I think in the past, WWE has learned when you're two white meat baby faces, we say, two like true blue, good guy, follows the rules no matter what, people think you're corny and they eventually turn on you and they're not really into you. I think this was giving Cody just enough of that shade of gray to make him not seem like a corny dork. Like, now, okay, he's pissed. He's going to go throw some hands at some security, going to dive over him to try to get to Brock. Like, he feels he's a little more feisty now, as opposed to like, yes, sir, I'll follow the rules. I'll cross my T's and dot my I's. It's wrestling. I want him, we all like Stone Cold and The Rock. We want you to flip people off every now and again and be a little rowdy.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Jack. It was very. I mean, look, go back to SummerSlam 2014, when that was the night that Suplex City was really born. That was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, where he just bent Cena 50 million ways with I forget how many German suplexes, and the crowd ate it up, because at that point John was just, John was he's polarizing, but he was very true. You can't see me, never give up, the salute, white meat babyface. And that's kind of where the crowd got. Even though this was Brock Lesnar, who just months earlier had beaten the streak of takers, they ate up just seeing him just handle and squash Cena in a way that we had never seen Cena handled. So I think that is kind of like the situation here, is like, you got to give Cody a little grit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, whether it's leading up to or whether it's in the match itself, if Cody's got to get a little dirty, if he would have to do a heel move, like if Brock is being so. Let's say Brock does a similar thing in the match. Let's say Brock is just suplex city, and Cody's barely hanging on to survive. Maybe Cody gives a little low blow to Brock, but I think if it's laid out the right way, the crowd won't boo it as like, oh, you bad. They're going to say, guy's doing what he's got to do to hang on. He's just trying to survive. And if the story's there that he's a good guy who's just trying to, it could work. So I think that's kind of, I think it's a good point by you. I think you gotta if you want to keep Cody, if you want to keep from the crowd splitting, you cannot let him get into white meat babyface territory. You got to still keep some relatability. Somebody who's just going to do, maybe he's got a better rule for a time or two to survive the big bully.
Mm-hmm. Kier Kemp throws in the super chat: would Brock and Cody main event Backlash? I would assume so. I mean, maybe that 6-man tag if Roman's getting involved, but feels like Cody Brock has to be main event, right, guys?
You can make a case for the 6-man, that's for sure, because that's the biggest storyline going on is what's going on with the bloodline.
That's true.
Right yeah, now. With Bad Bunny and it's Puerto Rico and I guess also it's how are each of them going to end and how do you want the show to end? So that might dictate what you put on last.
Yep, that's true. That's true. That's why I ask you guys. But we get a match that I think, to me, shocked me a little bit with what we got. We got The Miz versus Seth Rollins. Miz jumps Rollins to start the match. Says he wanted this match because he was cheap shotted so many times. Match of the night, I think, here. Seth gets the win. Jimmy, could we be seeing a more serious Miz going forward? Because this did not feel like goofy Miz. This felt like a serious, I want to prove myself Miz.
I think it's good to see serious Miz at times. You don't have to see him every week, serious Miz. You can mix it in. And we saw how good he could be in this situation when he is that fired up Miz and wants to prove to the world that he can go. Because that's been a part of the criticism with him lately is like he's doing all that goofy stuff and he can't hang with it. He hung with Seth Rollins. And you talk about, we've said this on this show before, you can get over without going over. I think Miz proved himself tonight to the point where people said, hey, you know what? We forgot about the Miz. The Miz really has it going and he can go. And tonight was a situation with Seth Rollins, of course. They told a hell of a story together. They had a hell of a match. And, man, proud of the Miz. And that's the guy that I saw get banished to the broom closet and thought, I can't believe this guy's going to be here much longer to what we saw tonight. It was amazing. Yeah,
Justin, any thoughts on this one? And I guess, what are your thoughts on them actually have a reasoning for this match? I loved that they said that on commentary that Miz was upset about the cheap shots him and Logan Paul took. It's a small thing, but it made me go, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm good with it. What I take away from this is the crowd was really, and this is not the only crowd, Little Rock not the only one. The crowd is they have been very much behind Seth Rollins. I mean, why not? I mean, he's got the song thing that everybody, audience participation is half the battle. Just ask Road Dogg. You don't gotta do a whole bunch of stuff in the ring every single night. But if you can get the audience very much, if you can get them buying a ticket because they want to be part of the entrance, and so he has that with the song. But of course he's freaking. I mean that suplex from the top to where he does it at the top and then immediately rolls it into the Falcon Air. I mean that's incredible core strength and everything. Here's what I'm wondering with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is so over right now with the crowd. Very, very organically, he has the crowd behind him. Maybe there's a whole other podcast we could do right now on, is he more over than Cody? I don't know. Or is it all the same? I guess what I'm wondering is what do you really do with Seth here long term as we come into the summer of, we got Backlash in Puerto Rico, then we got Money in the Bank. Then we go to Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia at the end of May. Then we go to Money in the Bank in London July 1. Then we go to SummerSlam in August. With these big shows coming up, what does Seth do? Because, I mean, is he a challenger that steps up and challenges Roman in the time being? And, of course, there's tons of history there. But if he does, he's probably losing. You've already had him work with Theory. So, is he going to, I don't think he's working for the U.S. Championship. Does he get moved over to SmackDown? Is he a guy that goes after a Gunther? And again, makes the IC title seem even bigger because it's Seth freaking Rollins. I'm really wondering, what do you do with Seth? Because Seth is hot and over right now at the crowd. And I kind of feel like maybe he just ran his course on Raw. Maybe he does need a fresh set of dancing partners because he's very over. I just don't know what else there is to do for him right now. Because the stuff with the Miz, that's not going to last much longer.
I mean, it's a good question because he is definitely world title popular right now. I mean, I don't know if you can't just give him the title based off everything that's going on, but it does feel very disruptive how over he is almost. That he's kind of forcing himself into that conversation. I think there's a plan for what they want to do, but at this point, are you misusing someone? I hate to throw that term around, but I mean, he's so popular. It feels like, why is he not in that world title scene right now?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, Jack, but it just feels like I don't think they saw this coming. This reinvention of Seth in his current iteration, I don't think they saw the popularity that they maybe didn't realize that this was going to be what people are gravitating to. This is caught on. Yeah. And sometimes you catch fire when you least expect it. And that's what happened, I think, here with Seth Rollins. They weren't expecting it, this kind of reaction. And man, people are loving it.
Is there almost something happening with Seth Rollins that, and I'm trying to find a good example off the top of my head, but I see that you've got Roman Reigns, this guy, this version of him, somewhat new, grand scheme. I mean, it's been years, but grand scheme of careers, somewhat new. Cody Rhodes is the guy coming in that everyone thinks is going to be the guy to win the title. He's a new guy. Is there something about Seth Rollins being one of, if you're a WWE fan, one of quote unquote our guys that has been here and been his Seth Rollins, and we've been behind, and now we're kind of latching onto him because he's not the new toy. He's the one that's been here since the beginning.
I don't know if there's a resentment or a split of but I do think there is something to the fact that if you look at the roster, and obviously the Miz being one of the few, there's not many more people beyond Seth that have been tenured as a full-time regular without any significant time off, other than maybe a few injuries here and there. Seth's been there. Seth debuted with the Shield in November of 2012, and he's been going strong ever since. A couple of reinventions of himself, which is what you need to do for longevity in pro wrestling. But yeah, I just think that there is. I think probably to the audience there is that sense of like he's just been around. He's done it all. He really has. I mean, and I don't know if I don't think it's a thing of pitting him versus a Cody type of thing. I think it's just he's there again, audience engagement, and you watch him. He just does things athletically and physically that like I said earlier, it shows off incredible strength and fun to watch. So he's kind of hitting it he's kind of satisfying every fan. If you like to just watch entrances, he's an entrance to watch. If you like work rate, he's a work rate. If you like visuals, he wears the craziest things. You want to hear a talker, he can cut a promo. He can kind of do it all.
He really is the quintessential pro wrestler when you think of it in those regards. Because he'll cut a promo, he'll wrestle, he'll wear the goofy outfits, he does it all.
Yeah, and when you talk about guys who don't, one of those rare guys who don't need a title to get over, Seth Rollins is that guy right now.
Yep. We got a guy with a title, Austin Theory, having a match with Bobby Lashley. Lashley says with the draft coming up, this might be his last chance to get his hands on Theory, and that's why they're doing this match. Goes a couple segments before it gets busted up by Bronson Reed, who targets Bobby Lashley. Lashley almost gets one up on Bronson, but Theory helps Reed, who then hits the tsunami. Jimmy, are we going to see a Austin Theory Bronson Reed team up?
I don't know if it's going to be an actual team up, but they are on the same side of the fence. Let's put it that way. But I'm looking forward to a Bobby Lashley, Bronson Reed matchup. Two big guys, two big hosses that can go. And, obviously Bobby's got the physique and Bronson's got more mass, but he can move, man, for the guy his size. And this is going to be an interesting matchup. And they've got me interested in a big guy matchup and looking forward to seeing this one. Now, whether this one happens at Backlash, we could assume. And it's just interesting that the two times that Bobby's faced Austin Theory, both matches were kind of like non-finishes. So do we get one more match with them, or so that they could close that off, or maybe Bobby just says to hell with it. Bronson Reed, you're in my sights right now. Forget everything else.
Yeah, Justin, what were your thoughts on this one? And what were your thoughts on the idea of Mr. Nice Guy, Bronson Reed?
Yeah, the vignette that aired earlier the night, long overdue. And I think the three of us had this conversation somewhere in the last couple of weeks or months, which is Bronson Reed, big guy, such agility, Vader, Bam Bam Bigelow-esque in terms of that. But like, give me some background, give me some color to him. And I thought tonight that vignette, that Mr. Nice Guy vignette I was like, God, this is what we need. This is exactly what we need. So I also like the fact that they gave us that, and that wasn't just the only thing of Bronson Reed tonight. He then later came out and and got him some of Bobby Lashley. So I think this was a good night for Bronson Reed if you got Bronson Reed stock and you're trying to see him build up. And I agree. I think at this point they've done the things to to have a backlash match potentially of Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed, but say no count out, no DQs. All right, you big guys, we're gonna extend the boundaries here. We need a winner. Not a count out, not a DQ, not a whatever. We need a winner, and so and it would be completely justified at this point, because I think that now as the audience you kind of want to see it, because these two guys are just, I mean, they're two big bulls that are just hitting each other hard, and yeah, this was a good night for Bronson Reed for all things considered.
Yeah, this was a spot though where I noticed, and this was something that was brought up earlier on. It happened throughout, but this is where it really started to click with me. And Shelbowski mentioned it earlier on. Big shout out to Shelbowski for being so patient on this one. Says, why pipe in crowd noise? All it does is encourage lazy riding and emotionless riding, not to mention cheesy when you see the crowd yawning and the mouths not moving. Now, there's a lot of stuff in there, but I will say this episode, and Justin, I see you reacting here, so I'll let you go on this. This was an episode where I feel like I noticed crowd noise a lot more than I had noticed in the past. Was that just me, or was it more obvious tonight?
I don't know if it was more obvious. It depends on it. You have to just be set out to look for it. You have to put your mind to it, like, okay, I'm hearing something. Is what I'm hearing, is it matching up to what I'm seeing? You just have to be looking for it. It's not. First off, I don't think it encourages lazy writing. Nobody in WWE is being lazy. Nobody's phoning it in and just go. That's. I don't. Jimmy worked there, but that's not the. That's just not. You're not going to survive if that's your way of getting through to a paycheck. Nobody's lazy. Everybody there is trying their ass off. It's what makes the final draft. I will agree. When you pipe in fake noise, you have to be very cognizant of what camera shots are. What are we seeing of the crowd? Because that is a displacement of, I'm hearing a whole lot, but I'm seeing people just sitting still. That's a real thing. I'll fully admit that. But to the idea of piping in fakes, piping in sound, yes, of course, you'd love to have 15,000 people just going raucous naturally. Of course, you'd love that. But if you don't always have that, this entire presentation, this entire product is manufactured to try to get you to feel a certain way. Okay? So why is it so out of left field to think that if we can enhance some sound to make it click, that when you buy a ticket in 3 weeks, when we come to your city, you're supposed to really boo this person when they do that, or you're like, it's not a misplaced idea that you're just trying to sell what you want people to react, and then hopefully they get the picture, or they get and they start doing it, and you don't have to pipe in the noise. But yes, I agree. When you see people not doing it, it is a displacement. But the whole idea of piping in noise, we're manufacturing the wins, losses. Who's saying what? Who's doing what? So why is inputting sound such a wackadoo idea?
That's where I draw the line, Justin.
Right.
I'll let you adjust lighting, wardrobe, what people say and do, but I will not stand for fake crowd noise.
Hey, you remember, we don't use the word fake. It's sports entertainment noise.
Predetermined crowd noise.
Yes. See, but you compare it kind of like to any sitcom out there or something like that, the laugh track that's added in when they don't do it in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a live audience in this situation, but at the same time, like Justin said, for the audience at home who, let's say, for example, somebody's watching who is not a frequent watcher, let's put it that way, for lack of a better term, and they say, oh, this is somebody who's being booed. This is obviously the bad guy, the good guy, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
It's a lot better. Sorry, Jimmy. It's a lot better than, again, if people aren't yet reacting as much as you want because they haven't yet seen the Bronson Reed video, whatever. It's better to try to do this and hope that, versus no noise and it being complete crickets.
Yep.
Like,
but people are. It's not that people are sitting there asleep. They're paying attention. But sometimes they pay attention, without making any noise. And I get where people are saying, oh, they're not sleeping. Let's put it that way. They're paying attention. They're just not reacting. Let's put it that way.
And I will say that as far as the excuse for being lazy, trust me, everybody in that building knows when it's quiet. There's no one who's getting away with anything when it's quiet. So even though they may be putting in that sound, if it's quiet, trust me, people are aware, they're noticing, and they're not getting away with anything. Just because they're covering it up does not mean they're getting away with it. Those are two very different things. But as we continue on, we get to Trish Stratus. She comes out in a long black jacket with a cowboy hat, and she says she is solely the credit for the women's evolution, and she is no one sidekick. Jimmy, this is probably the most important question I'm going to ask all week. Like I said, she came out long black jacket, black cowboy hat. Who wore it better, Trish Stratus or Brock Lesnar? Go.
And not just because she's Canadian and she's a fellow Greek descent as I am. Trish did wear it better. But the one thing I enjoyed most about this promo is that when Trish was delivering the promo, you felt, again, we talked about passion with the Cody deal. This was passion in a different way because she came off, as the heel here. She came off as a biatch and all that kind of stuff. But you felt that she was believing what she was saying. Do you know what I mean? You felt that through the camera, through the lens. And whether they felt it in the arena, I don't know, but I felt it here at home, thinking, "Oh, you know what? I'm buying what she's believing she's saying." Anyways, and she's, if you get my point, what I'm trying to, I can't spit it out the way I want to spit it out, but that's one of the things when you talk about promos. Yeah, if you don't believe it, then if you don't look like you believe what you're saying, then how is the audience going to believe what you're saying? She came off making the audience think, "Oh, wow."
Yep.
What a B.
And Justin, to that point, last week we were talking about, I don't know if we can boo Trish. Do you still feel that way?
No. First off, Jimmy, I believe Brock has Canadian citizenship, so
yeah.
You could pick Brock if you.
Yeah, but he's from Minnesota technically. So.
Yeah, Minnesota, the Gopher guy.
Yeah, I forgot about that Minnesota Canadian.
And he's in Saskatchewan somewhere. So come on.
You don't claim Saskatchewan. Yeah, look. Here's what was impressive about Trish. And I did. You're right. I did doubt that last week. I was like, do we want to boo her? She came out there. Trish, who has not been a regular full-time performer in however many years, she came out there. She cut a long promo, live, one take to the audience, had to deal with what chance and whatever else, cut a promo, gave us an explanation and a reasoning, which I bought, and didn't scream, didn't have to, she kept a very matter-of-fact tone to what she was saying, what she believed that she was saying. She never had to scream. She never had to fight the audience. And that's a tough thing to do. That is a veteran move. But it's even more impressive that it's a veteran move. But again, she hasn't been on a live mic to play that heel role. She hasn't played a heel in 20 years. So the fact that she was able to go out there and do that, she didn't miss a beat. She didn't stammer on a word. She hit her notes. And then rightfully so had the mic drop at the end. That really, really well done. So that I'm on board. I'm on board for heel Trish, and to see where this goes, and not to make it an age thing or a shallow thing, but I mean, yeah, you see her out there. She's 47 years old, and she looks like she's in her. She looks and sounds like she's in her prime. I'll just all encompass it as that. Bravo to her.
Yeah, Jimmy, between Lashley and Trish, people don't age at WWE. I mean, even Vince McMahon is still jacked. What are they? What's in the water over at WWE?
I don't know. There's something in the catering too, as well, I guess, so to speak. Whatever it is, not to get off topic, but Billy Gunn too. He just, I see him and I just get upset.
It's unfair.
Yeah, it isn't fair.
I will say, we talked earlier about Bianca Belair. After this promo, I'll be honest, I would be totally happy with Trish beating Becky at whatever the next matchup is, and then I'd be happy. I would be okay with Trish beating Bianca Belair, and maybe being even if she's a part-time champ for a little bit.
Well, I'll say this to that point, Jack. They have Money in the Bank event July 1 in London, And how many years has it been since Trish performed in front of a live crowd in London? That itself could be a draw if you put her to challenge Bianca Belair, if you want to do that. If she's up for it, I don't know what her contract situation is or how many dates she's committed to, but if she's willing to do it, I agree. Bianca Belair is an over babyface champion who, as we talked earlier, kind of has a lack of challengers right now. If you have Trish get a dirty win on a Becky Lynch, and then roll right in and say, okay, I'm going to win the title now and remind all of you that I am the one that started this whole division. I'm going to win the title in 2023. That could be a compelling attraction for the London crowd.
Yeah, and as mentioned, as everyone has said, what made that promo so great is she's kind of got a point in everything she said. Maya Lee winning the Patient Listener Award. Maya, thank you so much. We got a couple from you here. First super chat is, it feels like my childhood again. Are we getting Trish versus Lita rivalry in 2023? I like seeing all the stables together at the end of the show. We'll talk about the end of the show in a little bit, but it's so funny. When I was a kid watching wrestling, I was like, get these old folks out of here. But now I'm like, I love seeing the people who are legends come back.
Well, the Hall of Fame match.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's but Miley also with a question saying, why Becky wasn't at Raw? Did something happen? ? I did not see anything noteworthy. Justin, I know you're plugged in with the news. Did you hear anything?
Yeah, Becky had actually said that she wasn't going to be there. I believe she's dealing with a foot injury. So, she went on social and actually did say she wasn't going to be there tonight.
So everything's good with Becky, I assume. And then, besides the foot injury, obviously, but get Wilson in there.
And I guess there was speculation about, like, there's been a lot, especially the last couple of weeks when, when Vince was there the night after Mania and the Raw rewrites and, like, even Becky's husband Seth, apparently his segment got completely blown up and whatever. There's been a lot of is Becky mad? Is she leaving? Whatever. Supposedly her contract, she's under contract for at least another year, at least till next year. So it's like nothing like that's going on. But yeah, she's dealing with some type of injury with the foot. So all the more reason why it might fall into maybe Trish beats her just to kind of cover up some things. Trish beats her in a schmaz, and Trish goes on to challenge Bianca. Who knows?
I will say, anyone who's on Twitter like about wrestling stuff, just pump the brakes when you see that someone wants to leave a company before you instantly react. I don't know. Just gonna throw that out there. I feel like those things come up all the time, and just pump the brakes before you get a little worked up about it. That's all I'm going to say there. But Dream Realm Studios with the super chat saying John Morrison won his first boxing match. I heard. Good for him. I mean, speaking of guys that don't age, also that guy. By the way, I think there's a warrant out for his arrest because it's illegal to have abs like that at his age.
Again, not fair.
Yeah.
I think the only reason Finn Balor gets away with it is no one realizes how old he actually is. That's why he gets away with his abs. But we have Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville versus Candice LeRae and Michin, while Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are on commentary. It's a fairly quick one with the complaint committee getting the win here and splashing water in the face of Liv Morgan ahead of their match on SmackDown. Jimmy, nothing controversial or crazy in this one, but I feel like Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are a great tag team.
Yeah, they are. They are a very good heel tag team, and they work well together. They have that chemistry. Not much, like you said, not much to say about this match. There wasn't much to it. It was more of I hate to say, an enhancement match to build up the upcoming match for the tag titles, and throwing the drink in. Oh my goodness, whose face was it?
Liv Morgan's.
Liv Morgan's face. Again, just further adds fuel to the fire. And what did they do after they threw the drink in the face?
They ran away.
Exactly what heels are supposed to do.
Smart. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a fun one, Justin. We've said before, but to me, the message here is great characters are going to. It's going to be easier if you're a great character than if you're a great pure wrestler, and that's no shot at anybody. It's just, I think you can see it in this match.
That's airport test. Be a character. Be somebody I spot 50 yards down the terminal. Be somebody that I can't help but listen to and turn to when I'm sitting at the bar waiting for my flight. It's all in the airports are wonderful filter. Yeah, I agree to that with Sonya and Chelsea. I also I got to give a shout out to the new champs. I thought they're just out there to kind of just be their present, and they're out there in street clothes. Raquel and Liv coming out looking like $1 million with the title, and they looked that. I thought that was a good first week presentation. If they're not going to be wrestling and they're coming out, that was a good presentation. They looked like stars the way that they entered the arena. So good on them.
Yeah, and I think that they did a great job of, if I only watch Raw and I haven't really been tuning into SmackDown, that sells me on SmackDown. I'm interested to see that matchup if I don't really know much about who they are. We continue on and we get a quick little backstage package about the upcoming draft. Boogs is worried. The Prophets are worried. Akira and Corbin are talking smack. Elias is going number 1. He's pretty confident about that.
Jack?
Yes.
I have to ask you. You mentioned the Prophets. Do you want the smoke?
Oh, well, I clearly look at my...
It was a layup. Sorry, it was a layup.
Wow.
Yes.
I just feel bad I didn't think of it.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything to take away from this other than just kind of explaining that anything goes in the draft. We also got some smack talk from the Bloodline to the LWO. But Justin, anything to take away from these backstage segments?
Nah, just fun. I mean, yeah. Tazawa jumped in there. He was fun.
Yeah.
I am actually, and Baron Corbin was in there. I actually am curious. They like, what are we going to do with Baron Corbin?
Yeah,
Baron's a good heel and he's a good worker. It's kind of like we got to do something. What's next for Baron?
Again, you talk like you're talking about draft and maybe a change of scenery can help. I don't know if it will for Baron, because a lot of times perception is reality, and he has to reinvent himself in some way that catches on with the crowd.
I agree. Real quick, not to like Baron. So Baron, he's had his, he started his first big thing on the main roster. He was like, like the apocalypse. He's like, and then he kind of moved away from that, and we've seen different versions of him. Obviously, the last thing with JBL just kind of went flat. But again, kind of going back to what I said earlier about Riddle, about like leaning into real life credibility. Baron Corbin is a former NFL player. Baron Corbin, I believe, is a Golden Glove boxing champion. Like, so again, Baron Corbin is somebody who, again, is a legit tough guy. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. Like, we've done Happy Corbin and we've done Broke Corbin. We've done all these things, and you need those things. Again, it's an entertainment business. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. But I also wonder if we're looking for, again, to reset new heels and reset with people who we can rely on and that are, and Baron's certainly one. He's rarely injured. He shows up for work. He doesn't get in trouble. He's there. He's somebody that I would rely on if I'm the company. I'd invest TV time in. Maybe if I'm looking for a reset, what about his past can we dig into to provide some credibility? Again, especially if you're trying to shop in the next year or two to an ESPN or anything mainstream. If you can show footage of this guy being at training camp for the, for an NFL football team, if you can show footage of this guy winning a boxing tournament, I mean, that's stuff that resonates.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that there was a few years ago, it wasn't that unrealistic to think he may have been in line for a world title shot. Back he was winning King of the Ring. He was kind of the main
retired Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
Retired Kurt Angle. He was actually on quite a run as probably the most hated person in WWE for a while. I mean, he was pouring dog food on Roman Reigns' head, stuff like that. That seems so far away now, but I feel like there's value in Corbin. I just got to figure out what it is. We get to our main event though, and it is the 6-man tag: KO, Sammy, and Riddle versus the Judgment Day. Good guys get the win, so Bloodline comes down and finishes the job, but LWO shows up and evens the odds, and we get a big old group melee at the end there. Jimmy, I know people feel differently about these things. I love a good locker room clearing brawl to end a show. It gets me every time. It works for me. I dig it. How did you feel about this one?
I was okay with it because all the players in here made sense because they have issues with each other, like Ray and everybody, and the LWO has an issue now, and then you can go again branch off into different the LWO versus Judgment Day and the Bloodline, and against Sammy KO and Matt Riddle. There are avenues to go with this. And I found it interesting that the baby faces were standing tall at the end, which could, in old school booking means, well, they're going to get theirs and maybe next week, and then we'll see what happens at the pay-per-view. But it sets up a lot of possibilities, and it makes, and again, the crowd was into it. There was a lot of mayhem. There was a lot to follow. It was hard to follow all the stuff that was going on, but at the same time, it kind of made sense because all the groups had issues with each other.
Justin, do you think we're going to see the Bloodline try to get some revenge against Judgment Day for not finishing the job, or was that just something they said tonight to give some credence to the main event?
No, they will. I don't know when, but they will. I thought this was pretty well done. The most important thing was I thought Riddle was the one who got the hit the finisher and got the pinfall, and that was important. He's the guy. He's the new one who's back after time off, and he's the one who you try to sell me as being serious as a credible baby face earlier in the night. So I think that was important that he's the one who got the pinfall victory. So I thought, overall this was this capped off what was a pretty good night of the theme of these coexisting challenges amongst these factions. So I thought, this is a good Raw overall from a storytelling standpoint. This Raw was consistent.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I thought this was especially a good post-Mania kind of. This is usually when things get pretty slow and you got to sort of temper your expectations a little bit. But this one had a lot of great storytelling. It moved things along really well. I will say, and I understand that this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense, but why does it weird me out that Riddle doesn't wear knee pads or shoes or anything and just the trunks? Like, I get that that's what everyone else wears, but for some reason I'm like,
no,
put on some knee pads.
I know. First off, I just think like, oh my God, my niece would hate me. But no, I know what you mean. It's because you look at him and he's tall. He's tall and lengthy as is. It's just a whole lot of flesh that you're seeing. It's a whole lot of flesh without being broken up because he doesn't wear boots. He doesn't wear anything on his feet. So that's there. That's like at least an automatic. At least if you don't wear knee pads, we at least don't see from your ankles down because you have boots on. No, he's barefoot. But then he has he looks like you're literally seeing him in his underoos. He's just a whole lot of flesh. Oh, by the way, he's got his nails painted. Not judging anybody, but then you see a guy, he's got his nails painted. It's a very unorthodox look. I have to, I gotta agree there.
Okay. It's funny. I agree with you all the way across. I know I should just be. I know the reality is I should be. Yeah, all of them basically wear that, but for some reason it gets me with Riddle. Next is gonna come out just wearing a belt, but he's gonna steal Midian's gimmick from the late 90s.
Wow.
There's a callback for you.
There's a deep dive.
So do yourself a favor, anyone who doesn't know about Midian, just Google Midian from the late 90s. Google naked Midian while you're at it. But we have, I thought this was a good show. I thought it was a fun one. I don't know if it was newsworthy, but a lot of fun stuff. I'd put it up there in that 7 or 8 category, I thought, as far as what to actually expect being a post-Mania show. Justin, where can the world find you online? What were your final thoughts of the show and all that good stuff?
Yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good Raw. Like I said, consistent in storytelling, and I'm kind of excited for backlash over the years has sometimes been a throwaway show. I'm kind of looking forward to it. So at Justin LaBar across the socials, Twitter and Instagram and all those things. Here on Monday nights, here on Wednesday nights, usually on Friday mornings, Spar with LaBar on Busted Open Radio with myself, Dave LaGreca, and Thunder Rosa, channel 156. So all those wonderful places you can find me, and of course I'm on really on Twitter 24/7 interacting as long as you're not being a faceless troll.
If you don't have your picture,
you don't have a profile. If I can't identify you in a lineup, I don't. If your profile picture is of a wrestler or of something else, if it ain't you, you're not going to get the rise out of me.
Nope.
I got to be able to identify you in a lineup. If your comment's stupid, I got to be able to find you in a crowd.
There you go.
I have to be able to actively ignore you in person as well as on Twitter. Jimmy, how about you? Any final thoughts on the show? Where can the world find you online?
No, I thought it was a fine show. And like you guys talked about, it furthered the story and the interest going into Backlash. And now I'm more invested into wanting to tune in to see it. And we got a good variety tonight of good in-ring promo work, good in-ring matches for the most part. And it was a complete show. Like you said, was it like blow away, knock it out of the park? Maybe not, but it was a solid triple to me, I think, anyways. Or maybe stretched out a long double stretched into a triple.
Perfect.
Yeah. And as far as where you can catch me,
you Canadians in the metrics don't try to start stretching spaces and time out here.
Okay.
Yeah, we like our measurement system. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's what I was taught growing up, so I'm using it. That's the way it works here in the United States.
Yeah, and as far as where you can catch me on here with you guys on Monday nights, and on Wednesday nights talking to Justin and Issa usually after Dynamite. You can catch me on my social media platforms doing my ref and rants from Monday through Friday, just talking, having a little fun, critiquing, not tearing down, but trying to tighten some screws. And of course, my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and I do the Reffing It Up podcast, which drops every Wednesday morning with RJ hosting us, who does a wonderful job. And this week's topic, the Rated R Superstar Edge.
On this day, I see clearly. Anyway,
not in that smoky room.
The room is clear. It's the. Something got under. We. In any case, thank you guys for watching. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media.
It's not 420 for a couple more days there, Jack.
I can't read a calendar in the state I'm in, Justin. No. In any case, I thought it was a good show, like I said. Thank you to everybody who is in the chat. Dream Realm Studios, Ethan Cruz, Dylan Matthews, John Millard, Adam Staples, Chris Aldridge, Dylan Matthews. Did I say Dylan Matthews already? Tut Graff, Duca J, Doc P, everyone else. It's great. We always got the early crew and the late crew, the ones that are in the beginning and the ones that are at the end of the show. Joey Segura, of course. Thank you guys so much. Ricky Zaldivar. I think that does it for us. Make sure to tune into the NXT after show tomorrow. Make sure to tune into the Dynamite show on Wednesday, the Thursday show on Thursday, the SmackDown Rampage show on Friday, and all the other good stuff. It's at Wrestling Inc., where you should find all your news. That does it for us. We'll see you guys next